Alrighty, we're going to start this up. I apologize this is going up so late. This is a normal experience when I go to a hockey game in Vancouver because they run late. It's going to happen when we go to Anaheim. It's going to happen when we go to Vegas. And before we go to Vegas, it's going to happen one more time in Vancouver. So that's three more nights during the rest of the regular season where a review is probably going to post kind of sort of late. That being said, this one, 13 games tonight. It's a lot. So the preamble done. Let's go ahead and get to it. The Boston Bruins at home against Pittsburgh. I saw the first period of this before we left, and I have to say, good game, Boston. Really. And I wonder, like, Crosby scores from Simone and Johnson at 24 seconds, and it was like something clicked on with the Bruins from then on. Corrali scores from Coleman and McAvoy at 10:03, and then Lindholm scores from Coleman at 12:16. So Carson Coleman, who was called up this morning, ends up coming in and getting 2 points in the first period. So excellent period for him. I've always liked Carson Coleman. So there was a debate about why didn't they call up Trent Frederick? Why would they call up Coleman? And I'm thinking that's just a foolish debate. Coleman's got more experience, and Frederick needs more time in the minors. 100% agree on that. Second period, there was no scoring. Third period, I apologize, Shadow's out of his mind. We were out too long, apparently he snapped. I'm not even going to try to explain his behavior. Hopefully he just stays right there for the rest of this video. Third period, Bergeron scores from Pastrnak at 3:19. So Pasta on the board with an assist. And then the empty netter scored by Marchand from Pastrnak at 19:07. It's nice of Marchand not to overskate the puck on the empty netter. So at least he hit the puck into the net this time. So maybe next time when there's a goalie, the goal will go in. All kidding aside, Boston with a really solid 4-1 victory. Jari with 26 saves on 29 shots in the loss. Halak, 29 saves on 30 shots. That's important because Jaro Halak's had pretty iffy numbers over the last couple of weeks, so that's important. Halak, Coleman, and Wagner, your 3 stars. Power plays, 0 for 3 for the Pittsburgh Penguins, 0 for 4 for the Boston Bruins. Shots were 12-10 in the first for Boston, 12-10 Boston in the second, and then the third, 10-6 Pittsburgh. Final shots, 30 apiece. Good game, Boston. We'll see whether or not they can maintain this. But this is the most impressive all-around victory I've seen from Boston in a while. And again, it's a matter of being able to maintain that. And they stay within shouting distance of first overall. I really hope they don't win the President's Trophy. I don't believe in the jinx, but I really hope they don't win the President's Trophy. Moving along. Toronto. Okay, so this is a meeting between two teams that needed the points. And to be honest, I would think both fan bases would be kind of happy with this result. You want that extra point, but first period, no scoring. 19 shots combined between the two, but no goals scored. Second period, Ryan scores for Calgary from Hamonic and Dubé. So maybe one thing for Calgary is the people you want to be scoring points right now still aren't. So that's still been a problem, but it's 1-0 Calgary after 2. Third period on a power play. William Nylander scores from Tavares and Barrie at 8:35 to tie it. So Nylander gets his 21st of the year. He continues to have an excellent season. We go to overtime. There's no scoring in the overtime. In the shootout, Matthew Tkachuk gets the winner. And the Calgary Flames, they win it 2-1 on the road. Important game for them. They, of course, were watching what Arizona was doing, what the Canucks were doing, and Vegas as well. And they come out ahead. So your 3 stars in this one are Rittich, Anderson, and Tkachuk. So Rittich and Anderson, both 2 out of 3 stars. Anderson's had a couple of iffy weeks. Rittich's been on the verge of losing his job to Talbot. And so they both needed this result. Rittich saves 35 out of 36. Anderson saves 31 out of 32. Power plays 0 for 2 for the Flames, 1 for 4 for Toronto. Shots 10-9 Toronto in the first, 14-12 Toronto in the second, 9-7 Toronto in the third. In the overtime, a lot of shots for an overtime, 4-3 in favor of the Flames. Final shots 36-32 in favor of the Toronto Maple Leafs. So there you go. Again, would the Leafs prefer to have 2 points? Yes, but in this case, they ran into a hot goaltender, and their goaltender was pretty good as well. So overall, like I said, I think this is a result where both fan bases can kind of step away and say, all right, we're happy with that. Although, Tkachuk getting the winner, not everybody's happy with Tkachuk's name being on the score sheet. But that's part of his job, is to make sure people aren't happy to see him on the score sheet. It's kind of what he gets paid for, partly. Now, LA went in against Florida, and this game's far more interesting than it needs to be. Now, I know Florida fans are going to say, all right, you need to stop talking about it because it's not a big deal. Holding leads, right? So, Florida in the first period, Dadonov scores from Huberdeau and Barkov at 6:04. That's a power play goal. Dadonov continues to quietly have one of the best seasons nobody's talking about. And I'm thinking about doing a top 10 list of players who are having great seasons that nobody's talking about. Not necessarily breakthrough players, but players that they really should get more attention than they're getting. And that's when Caps fans go, you got to talk about Samsonov. I talk about Samsonov, and I will later on in this video. Vetrano would score in the second period from Tony Nato and Hoffman at 3:06. So Florida's up 2-0 after 2. Third period, they put the pedal to the metal here. Matheson on a power play scores from Ekblad at 4:55, and then Brian Boyle scores at 7:06 unassisted. It's 4-0. Game over. Kinda. Iafallo scores from Doughty and Kopitar at 11:42. Florida takes a penalty on the power play. Carter scores from Kempe and Kopitar at 15:08. Florida takes a penalty. Kopitar scores from Prohorkin and Brown at 17:20. It's 4-3. Now, Florida hangs on, but again, the leads that they get, it's one of those things where Florida fans will roll their eyes and go, well, but we still win the game, so it's fine. I'm telling you, locking down games late, it has to be driving Quenneville nuts. Has to be driving him insane. Seeing these games where you're up 4-0 on the Kings at 7 minutes of the third period, and you hold on for a 4-3 victory. It's got to drive him nuts. Campbell saves 22 out of 26 in the loss. Drieger saved 4 shots, and then he got hurt, so he left the game with a lower body injury, and I believe it's lower body injury. And then Montembeault comes in and saves 23 out of 26. Your 3 stars are Boyle, Kopitar, and Vetrano. So Kopitar with 3 points in about 6 minutes is the second star of the game. Power plays 2 for 4 for the Kings, 2 for 3 for the Florida Panthers. The shots, 9 apiece in the first, 8-7 Florida in the second, and in the third, the Kings pushed for it, 14-9. Final shots, 30-26 in favor of the Kings. So it's a win for Montembeault, but you got to be a little bit worried if you're a Florida fan right now, because if Drieger's going to be out and Bobrovsky missed this game, well, that's concerning. But they're not the only team in the East that's going to be concerned with potential for goaltender injuries, taking them down to the number 3 guy in the lineup. It's odd to say that, but we'll get to that goaltender when we get there. Rangers, they proved again tonight they're very resilient, and they have the Islanders' number. This is the second game that they've beaten the Islanders in about a week, right? So Bailey scores from Johnston and Kuhnhackl at 19:09. So last minute of the first period, one of those key last-minute goals scored by the Islanders. They're up 1-0 after 1, and they outshot the Rangers by a crazy amount in that first period. Georgiev was absolutely under siege. Yeah, they went with Georgiev again. I have no idea what's going on with the goaltending with the Rangers. No idea. None. At this point, I assume that they played paper, rock, scissors. And Georgiev was probably rock and crushed scissors, and so he's the starter tonight. Second period, Zibanejad would score on the power play at 12:46, so that ties things up going into the third period. And in the third, again, the Rangers showing how resilient they are. They may not make the playoffs, but they're making it tough on Jeff Gorton to decide what he's going to do, because, again, they're not falling far enough out that he can just flat out sell everybody. Third period, D'Angelo scores unassisted at 4:16. He continues his amazing run. However, Beauvillier would score from Pulock and Nelson to tie it at 12:40, and then a last-minute power play goal. It is Kreider from Zibanejad and Panarin at 19:35. That's your backbreaker for the Islanders. They were 25 seconds away from getting a point, knowing that Pittsburgh was losing to Boston, and they couldn't get it. So, frustrating result for the Islanders. Georgiev saves 38 out of 40. Absolutely great night for him. Varlamov saves 25 out of 28. Your 3 stars are Kreider, Georgiev, and Beauvillier. So the Rangers keep taking points from the Islanders. That's going to affect the Islanders standing at some point soon. Because Columbus, we'll get to Columbus. Power plays, 2 for 5 for the Rangers, 0 for 5 for the Islanders. There you go. The Islanders got 5 power plays tonight. So that's progress. 22-6 were the shots for the Islanders in the first, 12-5 Rangers in the second, and in the third, 13-10 in favor of the Islanders. Final shots, 40-28 Islanders. But the result, the Rangers come out with the victory. So, again, pretty strong night if you're a Rangers fan. And it has to leave Jeff Gorton at least thinking about it. I mean, if you're going to say, well, they're not going to make it, so they'll still sell at the deadline, fine. But this at least has to give them pause, right? Has to give them at least some sort of pause. And for the Islanders, there are some problems that have been coming out over the last, I'll say, 3.5 weeks, where it started to affect their results. They did have that huge unbeaten streak that definitely helps, but I really think they need to figure something out at the deadline here and beef things up a little bit, but we'll see what they do. That being said, I need to change boards. All right, Montreal. Is this the start of something? Now, I said that about the Rangers, 10 days ago? And people were, Rangers starting something, come on. Maybe? And the interesting thing is, Kovalchuk, another pretty good statistical game for him tonight. He now has 7 points in 7 games as a Montreal Canadian. And maybe he's part of the solution with Montreal. Maybe that can work. And at a league minimum salary, maybe Mark Bergevin knew something when he picked him up. It all looks smart right now, right? First period, Farabee would score from Pitlick and Bunnaman at 18:47. I believe that's Bunnaman's first NHL assist. So it's 1-0. But 18 seconds later, Tatar scores from Dano and Sherratt. So at 19:05, that ties it up at 1. Second period, 2:08 on the power play. It is Kovalchuk scoring from Cousins and Weber. And just as they're announcing that, Lehkonen scores from Dano and Tatar at 2:19. So Tatar with a couple of points. We're going into the third period with Montreal up 3-1 on Philadelphia. And this is where Flyers fans get frustrated. We get a big win over the big team in the league, St. Louis Blues. And then Montreal in the third period gets a goal from Kovalchuk. Dano and Tatar with the assists at 11:13. Philadelphia comes up with the loss against the Montreal Canadiens. It has to be frustrating. Once again, they kind of shoot themselves in the foot. And right now, according to NHL.com itself, they are sitting below the playoff line. So it has to be a frustrating result. And yet, Carey Price has started stealing games again. He saves 40 out of 41. Alex Lyon saves 36 out of 40. Your 3 stars are Price, Kovalchuk, and Dano. So this is maybe the result of me making a video on Carey Price. Every time I make a video on Carey Price, he goes on a run. So maybe that's it's a coincidence. Clearly, I don't have that kind of sway with players, but it does seem like that's what happens every year. He goes on a run, and he's on one right now, and it can take Montreal far. They need to keep scoring goals like this, though. So there you go. Shots in this one were 13-12 in the first in favor of Montreal, 19-10 in favor of Philadelphia in the second, 17-10 in the third in favor of Montreal. Once they realized, hey, we can steal this. Final shots 41-40 in favor of Philly. Power plays, Montreal goes 1 for 3. Philadelphia goes 0 for 4. And there you go. Good penalty kill. 1 for 3 on the power play. Everything goes pretty well for Montreal tonight. And for Philly, their record against teams that aren't very good is an issue right now. At least, okay, their record against teams that statistically, when you look at the standings, they should be able to defeat, it's become an issue. But that being said, we'll go ahead and move along. Washington against New Jersey. And for New Jersey fans, tonight was upsetting. Not really as much for the loss. Domingue left after the first period. Was replaced with Corey Schneider. So, no Blackwood, no Domingue. That's a problem. Ovechkin scores from Karlsson and Backstrom at 15-17. At 19:08, Ovechkin scores from Backstrom. It's his 30th of the year. At 19:08, I assume that's his, 25th season of getting 30 goals or more? It's something ridiculous. And Ovechkin continues his run towards Gretzky's record. I do think he gets there. I know we have this debate all the time. I think he gets there. Second period, Hagelin scores from Eller and Panik at 16 seconds. Keep in mind, after the first period, Domingue goes in, so Schneider goes in, and 16 seconds into his appearance, he allows a goal. There was an ongoing joke that I had about Schneider, that he would allow a goal really, really early, and I kept saying, he's not ready yet. And he probably yells out to the ref, hey, I wasn't ready, that doesn't count. Because when you play sports, and I'm talking about, just a pickup game of hockey in the streets, or you're playing basketball, you play 21 with somebody, and you get points, they go, no, that doesn't count, I wasn't ready yet. No, that's just a practice. So I've always had that feeling with Schneider. He allows that goal early, so maybe it's a practice. Wayne Simmons would score from Heischer and Butcher at 1:08. So less than a minute later, New Jersey answers. But that's all the scoring you get in the second period. Third period, Coleman scores from Zajac shorthanded at 3:34. Coleman continues this amazing run that he's on. Jacob Vrana would score at 6:42 to restore the 2-goal lead. And then it's the hat trick goal by Ovechkin from Wilson and Carlson at 15:42. I assume that's the 600th hat trick for Ovechkin. It's a ridiculous number as well. He does it regularly. It's not a big deal. Domingue saves 13 out of 15 in the first period before he's out. Schneider saved 20 out of 23. And at the other end of the rink, there's that Samsonov kid, 32 saves on 34 shots. He continues this amazing run that he's been on. 3 stars, Ovechkin, Samsonov, and Backstrom. So Samsonov, again, one of the 3 stars. I'll go ahead and say that I'm saying Samsonov because A, Sergei Samsonov back in the late 90s, early 2000s, and it's currently 12:54 a.m. as I'm recording this. So Samsonov, 32 out of 34 on the saves, and just continues his amazing rookie season, which I'm well aware of. I talk about it every single game he plays. So maybe the media is ignoring it. I don't know. They could be. Maybe it's because in this case they'd say, well, yeah, but he beat New Jersey, so it's whatever. No such thing. Really, in all honesty, I'm not a big fan of. I think that used to be a deal in the NHL where it was, well, look at who they've defeated. There's a lot more parity in the NHL now than there was in, say, the 80s or even in the 90s. And I think anybody who's got a really good record, really good save percentage, I think that deserves to be respected. I don't think it's just picking and choosing, going, well, look who they've defeated. It was pointed out to me about Francouz, so I looked at Francouz's record and who he's played. He's played really good teams, so it's just crazy. Power plays, New Jersey goes 0 for 4, Washington goes 1 for 5 shots, 15-9 Washington in the first, 15-13 Washington in the second, 12-8 New Jersey in the third, final shots 38-34 in favor of the Capitals. And it's the kind of result they needed, and for New Jersey, I haven't seen anything online about how long Domingue's going to be hurt, but it's just one of those years, isn't it? Next up, Carolina. So Carolina, I think we can all agree, should make the playoffs, right? They should. Based on all the excitement surrounding this team, they should. But somebody between Columbus, Philadelphia, and Carolina will miss the playoffs. Now, if Florida keeps playing well, it could be 2 of the 3 that don't make the playoffs. So this is where things get kind of dicey. And tonight's result, Columbus showed they really want to be in there. Yeah, Columbus isn't going anywhere. Bemstrom scores from Atkinson and Gavrikov at 1:07, so Cam Atkinson wastes no time getting on the scoreboard. Second period, Netchus scores from Wallmark at 8:38. That ties it up, so we go into the third period with a tie game. But I would argue that a really low-scoring tie game, that favors Columbus. So in the third period, Atkinson gets his 10th goal. I mentioned that this morning. He had 9 goals coming back off injury. He can get his 10th, and he got it. From Wenberg and Nudavara at 4:51. So that's 2-1. And then Stahl scores from Teravainen and Gardner at 7:05 to make it 2 apiece. But with less than 2 minutes left, it is Nick Foligno who gets credit for a goal at 18:19. Carolina doesn't get a point, and Columbus gets 2. Really, really important. Columbus won this one without overtime, and they got her done. Mrazek saves 15 out of 18. Merzlikins, 32 out of 34. He continues to be this amazing story, right? Elvis has become this amazing story, and if we don't see a whole bunch of fans going to Columbus games now wearing Elvis costumes, Elvis is king, but have the Elvis costumes made out of like a Columbus Blue Jackets themed fabric, I'm going to be really disappointed if I don't see a whole bunch of Elvises, is what I'm saying. We used to see them at all the Vegas games, counting the Elvi, which is multiple Elvises. I want to see multiple Elvi at Columbus games. Atkinson's your first star in his return. Merzlikins is number 2. And Foligno. Power plays 0 for 1 for Carolina, 0 for 2 for Columbus. So power plays really don't factor into this one. Shots 9-4 in the first in favor of Carolina. 15-7 Carolina in the second. 10-7 Carolina in the third. Final shots 34-18. Yeah, Merzlikins stole this one. And that's kind of what he's been doing. And for Columbus, everything's coming up Elvis right now. It's been a pretty fun thing to watch. And again, I understand the media may not be reporting on it a whole lot. I have been. And I think if Columbus fans knew just how high the team is right now in the power rankings, they'd probably be more than a little bit surprised. There will be some surprises on Saturday, guaranteed. Next up, Vegas. This was not a surprise. So you're going to replace your coach. And from what was said by Kelly McCrimmon, I don't think this was an overnight thing. I think this was something they knew was coming. The fact that they fired Gallant and they have his replacement named at the same time, this has been coming down the pike for a little while, and it may very well be that Gallant knew this was coming as well. If you're going to fire your coach, fire him before a game against the Senators. No offense meant to the Senators, but fire him before they play the Senators and while they're on the road. Let Peter DeBoer get some games under his belt without being at home in Vegas, so there's no chance of fans being all snippy because he used to be the San Jose coach. Let him get some wins on the road, let him get himself together, and then by the time he comes home to Vegas, fans are already like, hey, we're winning some games with this guy as the coach. We're going to be good. Vegas scores early in this one. Stastny from Stone and Schmidt at 34 seconds. And they really controlled the first, and then they controlled the second. So the Golden Knights have been off to some slow starts. And that's one of the reasons being given why Gallant was showing the door. Slow starts, some bad stats overall. Although some advanced stats, people say their advanced stats are really good. But then there's the counter argument that the advanced stats don't go far enough. I've read articles that contradict articles, and then articles that contradict the articles that contradicted the articles. It's been really funny watching this. In the second period, Stone scores from Pacioretty and Stastny at 18:55. And you know what it is? The whole advanced stats, and then, well, if you look at this advanced stat, everybody wants to be right. Everybody wants to come up with empirical evidence of what the problem is with a team and empirical evidence for why this team wins. So they take the whole fun of it out of it. That's how I see it. It just takes the whole fun out of it, and it takes the hockey out of it. Because it treats it like every shot is the same, every save is the same, every opportunity is exactly the same when they're all completely different. That wraparound goal from Virtanen tonight, filthy. We'll get to that. So Stone scores from Pacioretty and Stastny late in the second period. Third period, shorthanded goal by Stevenson at 5:50. So it's 3-0. At 6:50, a minute later, Nemesnikov scores from Tierney and Connor Brown. That makes it 3-1. But Ryan Reeves scores from Will Carrier at 9:23 to restore the 3-goal lead. Connor Brown on a power play would eat into that with a goal from White and Shabbat at 12 minutes and 30 seconds. That makes it 4-2, but that's as close as they're going to get. So Connor Brown with a couple of points in the loss, and Ottawa's going to have to decide what they're going to do with a lot of players. Brown might be included in that list. But Fleury saves 33 out of 35. Anderson saves 39 out of 43. Your three stars are Stone, Stastny, and Brown of the Senators. Power plays 0 for 1 for Vegas, 1 for 4 for Ottawa, so it didn't suck tonight. There you go. Power play didn't suck. Shots, 17-10 Vegas in the first, 19-9 Vegas in the second. In the third, 16-7 in favor of Ottawa. They do work hard and they don't give up. 43-35 are the shots in favor of Vegas. Now, this is the best part. Ottawa doesn't give up. They're hardworking. They also don't win. So it's a win for everybody. For Sens fans that want to see them finish last, they probably don't finish behind Detroit, but they're going to finish pretty low down. And for fans that enjoy watching a team work hard, Ottawa's right there. That being said, before my voice completely dies, I need to change boards. Alrighty. Anaheim. They found goals tonight. Congratulations, Anaheim. You found goals tonight. And Josh Manson, maybe he can turn it around in the second half of the season. Josh Manson's had a really rough first half, right? So tonight he scores from Kasha and Fowler at 10:01. Henrique then scores from Raquel and Getzlaf 2 minutes later, 12:22. Now, because it's Anaheim, a goal would be scored the other way. It'd be Arvidsson from Yossi and Grimaldi at 13:56. But they have a 2-1 lead after one. And for Nashville fans, in Nashville, it has to be what's going on. This is Anaheim. Second period, the what's going on gets worse when Raquel scores from Getzlaf and Fowler at 9:52. That's Getzlaf's second helper of the game. And it's really, it's a problem right now for the Predators, isn't it? This is a game you have to win at home. You know you have to win. You're not in a position to lose games, and here they go. Third period, Grant scores from Rowney and Manson. That's listed as a shorthanded goal at 8:03. I say listed as because I know the app sometimes has it wrong. When it comes to shorthanded goals, I don't know why that's the one that they get wrong often. But that's a good sign for Anaheim too. That Grant's back. That's his 10th goal of the year. Granlund would then score from Tenorti, also listed as a shorthanded goal. Jared Tenorti's an interesting story in that he has maintained his sanity seemingly, and he is still getting shots at an NHL job. So at 15-22, he gets an assist on the Granlund goal that makes it 4-2. And I like Tenorti's dad enough that I still hope that Tenorti carves out some kind of an NHL career, and maybe this little bit of a run with Nashville helps. But the final score is 4-2. That doesn't help anybody on Nashville. Gibson saves 33 out of 35. If he's going to start stealing games, Anaheim can play spoiler. Not going to make the playoffs, but they can play spoiler. Saros saves 23 out of 27 in the loss. Your 3 stars are Raquel, Gibson, and Getzlaf. So all 3 of them members of the Anaheim Ducks. Anaheim's power play, which normally sucks, went 1 for 2 tonight, and Nashville only got the 1 power play. And their penalty kill has been having problems, and that doesn't help. So overall, it's not a good result for Nashville. It's frustrating. Shots were 14 apiece in the first, 14-9 Nashville in the second, 7-4 Nashville in the third. Final shots 35-27, and this is a troubling turn of events for Nashville. You switch out your coach, you're under a lot of pressure to make the playoffs, and honestly, they're not looking like they're going to make the playoffs right now. You can't lose a game at home against Anaheim. And if Gibson steals a game, okay, but it's just one of those things. They can't be losing these games. Next up, Minnesota and Tampa. Tampa. I'm not sure. Again with Tampa, right? Parise scores on the power play from Stahl and Spurgeon at 14-17. So, is Tampa going back into the mediocrity they were in before the 10-game winning streak? Is it just going to be that 10-game winning streak, mediocre before it, mediocre after? Kind of looks like it is, and it was kind of mediocre towards the end of that 10-game winning streak, too. They had a couple of close ones. Kucherov scores from Sergachev, and Palat at 7:42 to tie it up. Doesn't stay tied for long. Eric Sinek scores from Cunnin and Foligno at 12:32, and then 2 minutes later, Suter scores from Greenway, so at 14:43, that makes it 3-1 for Minnesota. Interesting story about this. We're driving to Vancouver to watch the Canucks game, and Yvonne's got the NHL app set to tell her when Minnesota scores a goal or Winnipeg. And so her phone kept going off, and she said, well, what is that? And I said, well, it sounds like a goal horn, so somebody scored. She goes, it doesn't sound like Minnesota's, and it didn't. But it was Minnesota, and I said, yeah, they're beating the Lightning. That was my reaction. They're beating the Lightning. So the third period, Kucherov makes it close on the power play from Stamkos and Cirelli at 9:32. They don't tie it. They push and don't tie it. Stalock came up big in that third period. He saves 18 out of 20. McElhinney saves 20 out of 23. So the goal support for McElhinney is still kind of eh. And now we can get into another discussion, which is Vasilevsky's won a lot of decisions out of his last. I think it's 13 out of 14. McElhinney hasn't. So do we have that discussion with Tampa too? It just feels like backup goalies become a discussion for too many teams too often right now. Suter, Stalock, and Kucherov are your 3 stars. Power plays 1 for 2 for Tampa, 1 for 4 for Minnesota. Shots 8-5 Minnesota in the first, 11-7 Minnesota in the second. In the third, Tampa Bay outshoots them 8-4. Shots 23-20 in favor of Minnesota. So Minnesota sits on the lead a little bit in the third, but they survive it. And for Minnesota, they're another one of those teams that are just staying in the race. And that's really all you need to do, just stay in the race. Make it a difficult job for your GM. For the guys on these teams that, as fans, we may look at and go, well, they need to sell. They don't want to get moved. Most of them don't. So they're going to go out there and play their hearts out just to show, hey, I want to stay here and be part of the solution. And make it so that they're not so far out of the playoffs that they leave it easy for the general manager to make that decision. All right, next up, Buffalo. Went in and did a number on the Dallas Stars tonight. Or should I say Linus Ullmark did a number on the Stars tonight. Ullmark, again, has emerged as a very good goaltender. He's emerged as a very good goaltender, very consistent goaltender for the Sabres. And we'll see what they do with their goaltending this coming summer. But there's some conversations to be had. None of them are going to involve replacing Linus Ullmark. First period, VC scores from Reinhardt and Eichel at 7:01. So Eichel's now got, what, a 9-game point streak? I think it's 9 with this one. And, yeah, VC gets a goal. About time. VC gets enough chances out there. Second period, Jamie Benn would tie it from Heiskanen and Sagan at 4:28. At some point after that, Heiskanen gets hurt. And there's no update that I've seen yet on Heiskanen's condition. We'll probably see in the morning. And I see that and I go, of course. Yeah, of course. So Heiskanen's out. Dahlin would score for Buffalo from Yoki Haru and Okposo at 16 minutes and 10 seconds, so 2-1 Buffalo. In the third period, there wasn't scoring until the goaltender gets pulled. So they pulled Bishop, and Buffalo scored 2 times while the goalie was pulled. First, it's for a leak from Lazar and Ristolainen at 17:44, and then Girgensons gets his 9th of the year from Okposo at 19:50. Your final score is 4-1. Does it flatter Buffalo? Maybe. But the real story here is Ullmark shuts the Dallas Stars down. And for me, somebody who gets concerned about Dallas's offense, this doesn't help. Ullmark saves 28 out of 29, and Bishop saves 18 out of 20. So Dallas allows the first goal tonight, and they lose that game because you can't always spot teams to a lead and then come back and win. Ullmark's your first star, Dahlin's number 2, and Jamie Benn's number 3. Power plays 0 for 2 for Buffalo, 0 for 4 for Dallas. Shots, 8 apiece in the first, 16-5 Dallas in the second. So that second period tells a huge part of the story as to why Buffalo steals one. In the third, Buffalo locked it down. They outshot Dallas 9-5. So that's a concern as well, only generating 5 shots in that third period for Dallas. Final shots 29-22 in favor of the Stars. And they lose to the Buffalo Sabres. So the Sabres, a team that has struggled to win on the road, they went in and against a team that's been pretty good at home in Dallas, they laid down the law, and they won it. So kudos to them, and we'll see whether or not they can maintain that. Again, the parity in this league is really strong. If you take any team lightly, if a goaltender gets hot, we can see some huge results, huge upsets. And tonight was a night where the road team won almost as much as the home team. So something that we've been looking at lately. Next up, Colorado. I wore their jersey this morning for the preview. There you go. Nichushkin scores from Burakovsky 45 seconds into the game. And if you told anybody, well, there's your game winner, 45 seconds into the game, they would have said, well, no, San Jose can score. San Jose's got some offense, and Grubauer's in net, and he's been shaky lately. Tonight, Bednar looks really smart for putting in Grubauer. I will say this, San Jose, not one of the top 10 teams in the league, so maybe we'll see Francouz in the next one. But again, they seem to be trying to get Grubauer going, and tonight it kind of worked. Makar scored from Kadri at 19:57. That's another key. Cale Makar. If Cale Makar can get back onto the kind of run he was on before he got hurt, he is Rookie of the Year. It happens. And then it definitely helps Colorado's chances from there. If he can't get back on that winning track, then Quinn Hughes has a shot in Vancouver. And Olofsson, despite how much time he's missing with injury, Olofsson, if he can come back and score at a decent clip, he's going to get some votes. But if Makar can get back into beast mode, then it's his. And I say that with all respect to Quinn Hughes and to Olofsson and to Kubalik and Chicago as well. I don't think that they're in that same realm as Makar, who has superstar written all over him when he's hot. Second period, Graves scores from Hamenev at 9:59, and then Calvert adds one less than 3 minutes later from Belmar at 12:52. It's 4-0, and they locked it down from there. There's no scoring for the rest of the game. A 4-0 victory. That's the first shutout of the year for Grubauer, who saved 27 in the shutout. Martin Jones, 34 saves on 38 shots in the loss. Grubauer, Makar, and Calvert are your 3 stars. And what's interesting, nowhere in the scoring are McKinnon, Rantanen. You don't see Compher. There's no sign of Landeskog. This is a team that did it with not necessarily the biggest scorers behind it. Although Burakovsky's been hot at points this year, and Kadri obviously has put up some points this year as well. But again, the really big names, not up there. And Compher. I know Compher's not a huge name, but he's not up there. And Girard kept off the score sheet. He's been pretty hot offensively lately. So 0 for 2 power play for San Jose, 0 for 3 for Colorado. Shots favored Colorado in the first and the second, 13-8 in the first, 18-11 in the second. Shots are 8-7 in the third in favor of San Jose. Final shots 38-27 in favor of Colorado. There you go. They shut out the San Jose Sharks, who are really out. California, if your team is based in California, they're not going to the playoffs. And it's been a long time since all three of them were in that situation. That being said, I have to change boards. And lastly, the game that I went to tonight, and this was really, really fantastic. And yet the shots will tell you, well, Arizona controlled it. It didn't matter. Markstrom was dialed in. Markstrom, when he's dialed in like this, is a sight to behold. And live, it's just fantastic. He gives them nothing. We were second row, so we were at the end that the Coyotes were shooting on in the first and the third, and Vancouver was shooting on in the second. So if you look on highlights, Yvonne and I are really easy to find because I was wearing the yellow skate jersey with the V's on the shoulders, and she was wearing a hooded sweatshirt. Canucks black skate with yellow shoulders. We really stood out in our section. I was quite impressed with that, and we knew that we stood out when people were pinging us right at the start of the game. Found you, yeah, and not only that, but people around us were getting a lot of text messages with, "Oh, I see you in the crowd. There you are," and they were sending them pictures too. And I'm like, "Oh, yeah, there you go." So yeah, this was a really fun game. And here's the thing: when you're watching from that close, you're going to be blocked out by the players' bench a little bit. I mentioned this in the review I did specifically for that game, but it's when you're on the glass, it's a fun place to be, but you're craning your neck a lot, and it's not where I'd want to sit all the time. It's not. Halfway up is really perfect in the lower bowl, and almost anywhere halfway up in the lower bowl, you're going to have a good view. And in Vancouver, those tickets that I had tonight, second row and right up close to the ice, they were I think it was $80 each for those tickets. I think it was 80. May have been less than that because the Arizona game was the lowest price game of the bunch. So, midweek and all that. Thursday. Anyways, Dvorak scores from Hall and Ekman-Larsson at 7:59, and at that point I thought, well, but we still got out of the house. Because it looked like an Arizona game early. They had a shots advantage, but then the Canucks came back, and they started playing really, really well. Horvat would score on the power play from Hughes and Pettersson at 15:01. And the funny thing is, they only had 2 power plays in the whole game. The first power play didn't work. Kept passing the puck backwards. There was even one time where Hughes passed it back, and I said out loud, "Where are you passing that? Where's that one going, Quinn?" And there were some plays that I watched from Tanev as well that I was like, what were you thinking there? That's the other thing with being that close, is that you see things, you go, well, where were you putting that? So, which actually is easier to spot when you're higher up in the audience, and you can kind of go, oh, that now I see where he's trying to put that. So anyways, Horvat would score to tie it at 1 after 1. Second period, this goal by Virtanen was beautiful because, again, I'm sitting right behind where Virtanen is, and he gets it, and I said, shoot the puck, Jake, knowing he can't hear me. Not loud enough, I don't think that people necessarily sitting around me could hear me, but I'm saying, shoot the puck, Jake. And he starts to go around the net, and Yvonne and I are both thinking, well, okay. And he wrapped it around into the net. And that made it 2-1. And it was fantastic because he bounced it in off the goaltender, and it went in, and I kind of went, holy crap. And I jumped up and screamed louder than I have at a game in a long time. So Virtanen from Miller and Pettersson at 15:49. Miller and Pettersson have the assists, but that goal's all Jake. And that's his 14th of the year. Now, in the third, the Canucks did a very good job of closing out the game. And I know, again, the shots were high in favor of Arizona, but Markstrom was just really solid. He gave them nothing. He is so big in that net. And when his positioning is like it was tonight, they don't have anything to shoot at. They're just basically shooting and trying to get a rebound. Wasn't happening. So they pulled the goalie. They ended up pulling him twice. I thought Hill had a good game too. I got to be honest. I thought Aiden Hill played well. And I was kind of impressed to see Aiden Hill, and we'll see them again in Anaheim. So be interesting to see who the goaltender is for them in that game. But Pearson would hit the empty net from Eriksson and Edler at 19:15. What was interesting with that was Louis had a clear shot at the empty net. And then he stopped and he passed it to Pearson. And I thought, well, why would he pass it to Pearson? Because having a brain fart and all. That was Pearson's 100th goal. So very nice of Louis to pass it over. It's one of those unselfish things that guys do on an empty net that I think is really impressive in hockey. And Pearson gets the empty netter to lock it down at 3-1, allow us to relax just a little bit. But I never really got the feeling that Arizona was going to tie this. Hill saves 22 out of 24 in the loss. Markstrom saves 34 out of 35 in the victory. Markstrom, Hall, and Horvat are your 3 stars. Power plays, Arizona went 0 for 2. I really don't remember the Arizona power plays, to be honest. I remember one that was in the Canucks zone quite a bit, and I don't remember the second one really much at all. So on the Vancouver side, they were 1 for 2. Those were both in the first period. Shots 14-9 Arizona in the first, 10-9 Arizona in the second, 11-7 Arizona in the third. Final shots 35-25. Great game. Really great game. So how did this change the standings tonight? Well, Boston's now 8 points up on Tampa. They are 11 points up on Toronto. In the Metro, the Capitals go to 69 points. They're 6 ahead now of the Penguins, and 9 ahead of the Islanders. The Carolina Hurricanes are tied with Columbus and Philadelphia. Right now, Columbus is listed as ahead of that line. The Florida Panthers, I should say, are 1 point below that. The Sabres at 51 points are 5 points out. The Rangers are 6 points out. Montreal 7 points out. And then you've got the others. On the eastern or western side of things, the Blues at 68 points are 10 ahead of both Colorado and Dallas. Colorado passes Dallas for second place with the victory tonight, and Dallas' loss. Calgary Flames are number 1 in the division right now with 57 points. Arizona second, also has 57. The Canucks with 56 are third. Vegas, with that win tonight, they jump back up to the first wildcard spot, 56 points. The Oilers, 55. The Jets fall below the playoff line with 54. Chicago with 50. They're 5 points back of the playoffs right now. Nashville is 6 points back. So again, Nashville, it's getting kind of tricky. The Minnesota Wild are 7 points back. San Jose is 9 points back. And the Ducks and the Kings, 14 points back. It's not happening for them. And so there we go. You guys are all caught up on tonight's action. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I do apologize for the lateness of this. This is what happens when I go to the hockey games, and there's a lot of games on. So yeah, there you go. Thank you guys so much for all your support. Like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. And things are still really, really tight all around the NHL. Going to be interesting to see what happens over the next few weeks as we get closer to the trade deadline. Thanks again for everything. I'll talk to you soon.